History is often written by the victors, and sometimes the most fascinating stories are the ones they try to bury. Imagine an emperor so scandalous, so utterly defiant of every norm, that the entire Roman Empire conspired to forget he ever existed. Today, we're unearthing the story of Elagabalus, the teenage emperor whose 4-year reign was one of the most bizarre and controversial chapters in Roman history. Forget what you learned in school. This is the story they didn't want you to hear. Who was this forgotten emperor? Our story begins not in Rome, but far away in Syria. He wasn't born a prince in the traditional sense. His name was Varius Avitus Bassianus, and he was the hereditary high priest of a local sun god, Elagabalus. He spent his early years in a world of mystic rituals, incense, and devotion to his deity. But he had one thing going for him: a very ambitious grandmother. Her name was Julia Misa, and she was the sister of the late Empress Julia Domna. Through some brilliant political scheming and a fabricated story that he was the illegitimate son of the beloved Emperor Caricalla, she managed to get the legions to declare her 14-year-old grandson Emperor of Rome in 218 AD. The priest boy from Syria was on his way to rule the most powerful empire in the world. Rome had seen young emperors before, but they had never seen anything like Elagabalus. His first priority wasn't consolidating power or military campaigns. It was a religious revolution. He arrived in the capital with his sacred black stone, a meteorite he believed was the physical manifestation of his god, Elagabalus. His plan was audacious: to replace the entire Roman pantheon, the gods Romans had worshipped for centuries, with his one Syrian god. He even built a lavish temple on the Palatine Hill, the Elagabalium, and declared that his god was now superior to Jupiter, the king of the gods. He forced the most senior senators to participate in his strange, ecstatic rituals, which involved dancing around the sacred stone to the sound of drums and cymbals. To the conservative Roman elite, this wasn't just eccentric, it was a horrifying blasphemy that threatened the very foundation of their society. But his religious reforms were just the beginning. Elagabalus's personal life became the source of endless scandal that horrified the capital. In just 4 years, he was married 5 times. One of his wives was a Vestal virgin, Aquilia Severa. This was an unthinkable act of sacrilege. Vestal virgins took a 30-year vow of chastity, and breaking it was punishable by being buried alive. Elagabalus claimed their marriage would produce divine children, but to the Romans, it was an insult to their most sacred traditions. Ancient historians like Cassius Dio, who lived through his reign, paint an even more shocking picture. They report that Elagabalus frequently wore makeup, wigs, and women's clothing. Can insisted on being addressed with feminine pronouns, as a lady, not a lord. He publicly took male lovers, most notably his chariot driver, a man named Heracles, whom he referred to as his husband, and even tried to have officially declared Caesar. He also had a relationship with an athlete named Zodicus. In what is perhaps the most astonishing detail, historians claim that Elagabalus offered a fortune to any physician who could perform a surgical procedure to give him female anatomy. How we must be cautious with sources written by his enemies. The consistency of these accounts suggests a person who fundamentally rejected the gender roles of his time, a ruler who so openly defied Roman military, religious, and social norms could not last long. His complete disregard for the Senate, his elevation of unqualified favorites to high office, and his scandalous personal behavior alienated everyone. The military, the source of his power, grew tired of his antics. The final straw was his attempt to have his cousin, Alexander Severus, who was popular and respected, assassinated. His own grandmother, Julia Misa, the woman who put him on the throne, realized she had made a terrible mistake. She saw that his continued rule would bring down the entire dynasty. In March of 222 AD, the Praetorian Guard, likely with his grandmother's blessing, mutinied. Elagabalus, just 18 years old, was assassinated along with his mother. body was dragged through the streets of Rome, a final humiliation, and then thrown into the Tiber River. After his death, the Roman Senate enacted a damnatio memoria, a condemnation of memory. His name was scrubbed from public records, his statues were destroyed, and his laws were revoked. They tried to erase every trace that he had ever existed. For centuries, they almost succeeded. Lagablus was dismissed as just another decadent tyrant. But his story is more complex. He was a teenager from a different culture, thrust into a position of absolute power, who tried to impose his own beliefs on a deeply traditionalist society. Whether you see him as a religious fanatic, a reckless tyrant, or perhaps a figure who challenged gender and identity in ways that were millennia ahead of his time, his story is a powerful reminder. It shows us that history is not just a collection of facts, it's a narrative shaped by those in power. And sometimes, the most compelling figures are the ones they try to make us forget. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this dive into forgotten history, be sure to like and subscribe for more.